Peace and blessings to the family. I won't tarry long today, but today I'm just reacting to some videos that I've seen popping up over the last few years about a place that is very, very dear and spiritual to me, uh, and that would be the Gambia, West Africa. Okay, so I first visited the Gambia circa 2000 Y2K, to be exact. It was my first trip overseas. I had heard about the Gambia from some guys from Middle Tennessee, Middle Tennessee University and Fish University and Tennessee State University. And people were visiting the Gambia on cultural exchanges, taking classes. My French teacher, Dr. Madame Moboso, Mary Moboso, basically was like, one day you'll get your chance to go. So basically, I was still away. I didn't make the registration deadlines to be a part of the official group, but I went anyways. And when I landed in Dakar, Senegal, it was a raggy and rough road all the way to Banjul, ultimately to Bakau and Kololi. But I learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot about who we are on the planet. I was welcomed to the typical African welcome of being hustled at the airport. But at the time, I guess I was about 6'1", 185 pounds. I had Tupac going on my box. So, picture me rolling. I came down on them because I had taken a lot of material goods, clothes, and things, and I was going to distribute them to people in the Gambia. I thought I was being charitable, but I found more charity coming back at me. So the road from Dakar to Banjul was, again, it was rough and rocky. I was by myself. I guess some of my ancestors left by themselves, and I came back by myself. And I made it to, my first night was in a place called Bara, which separates the Gambia from Senegal. It's the town over from Banjul. All right, so as I was riding through Gambia, I picked up a guy, Bakarai Njai. He was coming home from Spain at the time. And I told him what my destination was, and he told me, he said he Bakarai Njai from Brikama. So he was my initial traveling mate. I guess on this side of the border in Bara, they were still speaking Wolof and probably French. But that night, I remember one of the brothers, my first meal was some goat and some onion. And it was like, take his hand, brother, take his hand. And I went to, Seaside. That was the first time I had cast my eyes upon the deep blue sea that divides Africans from African Americans and African Caribbeans. But when I reached Banjul, there was a specific professor, Dr. Mock. I didn't want to say names, but I'm going to say names. I'm going to be generally authentic. And he said, man, don't you know you risked your life coming all this way, the way that you came? Like I say, I was young and funky at the time, you know. I didn't, you know, hey, I was from the bad streets of bad Atlanta, Decatur, Georgia, so I wasn't afraid of nothing. And I looked at it as a Hajj, as a spiritual returning. So that leads me into the subject. Is Gambia dangerous? Gambia is no more dangerous than anywhere in the world. It depends on what you put into something is what you're going to get out of it. In the next years, I would relocate to Abidjan, Cote d'Ivoire. But I had been told about Abidjan while I was in Gambia. That's the beautiful thing about the Gambia. Gambia represents a spiritual, mystical place in my life. I'm always thankful for the lessons that I learned in Gambia. So when I hear about bad things about Gambia and bad things happen to people in Gambia, I know that it's not the Gambians per se. I know that they play a part in it, but as a people, the Gambians represent a normalization of humanity for me. I remember when I got my first hotel room in the Gambia, a lady told me, she said, there's both good and bad in the Gambia. Good and bad, good and bad. And that's what it was. But as I evolved in my spiritual evolution and in my life, like I said, I wound back up in Abidjan, Cote d'Ivoire. My homeboy's wife is Jola. So she asked me, you know, she was asking me, had I ever been to Africa? And I was telling her yes. And I said a few words to her and what would be what I thought was Mandinka, but it was very similar to Bambara. And she was like, "Oh, I can tell you're from Gambia. That you learned to speak that in Gambia. Certain words like Etude, what is your name? Ebamutode, what is your mother's name?" And it was like a connection that was always there, but I never knew. But when I was in Abidjan and Cote d'Ivoire, I was noticing people were putting their life on YouTube and their experiences in the Gambia, growing their family in the Gambia, visiting Gambia, all sorts of things. Stella got a groove back in Gambia. You're going to go to Gambia and teach the Gambians about their traditional medicine. You're going to teach the Gambians about the marabouts and things of that nature. Again, I don't mean to be offensive to anybody. If anybody comes across this and is a family member of anybody that may have passed away in the Gambia, I'm not directing any of this towards you personally. I'm just speaking about my experience, and I want to get that side out of my love as an African American for the Gambia and the people of Gambia. Right, when I was in Gambia, it was under the rule of Captain Yahya Jammeh, who became a controversial figure in West African politics. I remember Yahya when he first came to power. as the youngest ruler in the continent of Africa. Yahya opened up a lot of avenues between African Caribbeans and African Americans with his, what was it, the Heritage Festival? I don't quite remember the exact name of it. But people from all over the diaspora would come back to Gambia. The Roots Festival, there we go. The Roots Festival, the Gambian Roots Festival. And people would come from everywhere for this celebration, right? I love Yahya because Yahya was strong. And Yahya's faith, people would call him a quack because he felt as if he could cure HIV. And he was using the peanut, just like George Washington Carver. He was using prayer. He was using the zikrs, all of these things. And I remember a sister from Gambia was saying, well, let him try. Nobody else has come up with a cure for it, but let him try. And some people talk about the ethicalness of him trying. Some people dying because they lack treatment, standard treatments, I would say. But Gambia being a small country and not having the same resources as a lot of the major Western countries, and these medicines for HIV, the antivirals, antivirons, at this time were very expensive, very expensive. So holistic medicine and prayer, the use of prayer and natural traditions, I didn't see a problem with it. But the other side of the coin, Yahya was kicking ass over there. They was ripping and juggling them for real. I wasn't aware of, how he was iron-handed to a lot of the dissident groups in the Gambia at the time. But again, this doesn't diminish my love for Yahya. I remember when Nelson Mandela went back to the essence. One of the best shots I felt was President Barack Obama and Michelle Obama. And Yahya was behind them, dressed in white with his zikr beads, his Quran, and his staff. And within his staff is a cutter, and George Bush was beside him. I remember seeing pictures of him with Fidel Castro, Comandante. So Yahya represents a time of power and excellence to me. My prayer always is that Allah or God forgive the rulers of every country that I've been in. God give them their benefits for the good that they did for the people, and have mercy upon them for the negative things that they did. It's the same with Sturdat al-Jawara. It will be the same for Adama Yawa with me. Though I am, a person that falls under the pact of Pan-Africanism, their land, their soil, their blood, I can only add my opinion to it and come along with and build on it. But again, God forgive him for his misdeeds. He will reckon with those. But I heard a lot of things about sisters, African American women going to the Gambia, and a few of them died in rapid succession. God be pleased with them, protect them in their grave, and may they see the choicest parts of paradise. But for me, something that a lot of African Americans and repatriates will not agree with me about is how you acquire land over there. In my opinion, it's reminiscent of how the European American came to the United States and the indigenous people were here, and the Europeans came with their diseases, the guns, and all of those things, the Bible. And when the indigenous people looked up, they had the Bible and the whiskey, and the Europeans had the land. So I kind of look at it the same way. When African Americans go abroad and they want to buy up the land and all of those things, it's very, very tricky to me. I think a lot of times you should be gifted a parcel of land from a tribal chieftain, or even the government, for that matter, and you got a lease on it. Maybe 1 or 2 generations, 99 years or something like that. But ultimately, your blood and your soil should go into the soil before you can own that land, right? So I see a lot of people go and they have the concept of, I bought this land, I put this is my land. But you got to think of all of the souls that have trod upon that land and been upon that land, and for you to think that you own the land, I think that's a pure European concept of things. Now, if you're going to go in and you're going to develop, you're going to use the land for you, you're going to use the land for the betterment of people around you, I'm all for it. I'm not telling you not to go and develop yourself or develop the land for the people. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, you got to remember that that is somebody else's ancestral land, and that those ancestors are going to call out for their ancestors as well. So with that being said, I trod lightly upon that, on that subject. The little bit of land that I do have overseas is, it's my family's land, my mother-in-law and my brother-in-law and sister-in-law. That's for them, as well as my daughter, so she'll always have a place to come back to. But that's just how I view it. But I'll tell one more story. When I first came into the Gambia, there was a German couple or whatever. They noticed me, and they knew that I was different from the Gambians because of my shoes, and I was how these people pull me out of everybody or whatever. And I see how keenly observant Europeans can be. Now, these Germans weren't no bad people or anything like that, but they knew the difference between me and the Gambians because of my shoes. I had on some Timberlands at the time, and they was like, well, we know these Gambians. For the most part, most Gambians. I mean, Gambia got money too. Now, don't say it. Don't try to say that I'm saying that all Gambians are poor with flies and stuff around them. But no, they knew I stood out because of my shoes. And I asked my Gambian homies, I was like, man, how do you know I ain't open my mouth up? They was like, man, it's your shoes, man. It's your shoes. They, and even the way your footsteps hit the sand, they can tell the difference of who you are and where you from. Some people who are just observant like that. And being observant is how they get it. That's how they live. But the German lady was, I would never do business with the Gambian. I would never do business with the Gambian. They're very tricky people. I was like, of course, coming from Germany, they know who you are. They know whose people you are in Africa. We need to look no further than Namibia. Look at your colonial presence in Togo. It didn't end well for the Africans. So, but my thing was, they could never pit me against the Africans. All right. And basically, in closing and getting to the end of this matter, you know, a lot of times when people leave the United States, Europe, or whatever, they searching for their roots. A lot of times people are trying to run from themselves in situations that they have back in their home country. I myself, uh, I left, you know, circa Michael Brown time. It was a lot of violence going on towards African American men, African American women, and I was just tired of it. I was looking for something different. I had looked into the Gulf states of, you know, Saudi Arabia, uh, United Arab Emirates, and Qatar. I had got jobs in Saudi, but I wound up in Cote d'Ivoire. I guess that's by providence. But whenever I go someplace, I just be who I am. I don't try to change those people. I don't try to stand out. But a lot of times when we go places, we think it's going to be like the United States or it's going to be like wherever we come from. And it's not like that. And that is one of the biggest things that will get you into trouble. Is you acting like you at home. You not. You in somebody else's uh, home. You in somebody else's lab. And they observing you. They looking at your ways. I was looking at one sister. She thought people was poisoning her food and things. I was like, well, you feel like that? Cook for yourself. You know, they got eggs and spaghetti over there. However you eat. If you're a vegetarian, they're not going to change. They got plenty of fruit. They got plenty of vegetables. Their fruits and vegetables. Organic. You should be eating what grows near you anyways. I was listening to a sister and she was saying, well, this costs so much and this costs so much. I'm like, well, you're not in Kansas no more. You're not in the United States no more. So you gotta adapt. You gotta adjust. That's one thing that I never had a problem with in Africa was the food. You know, I might have started eating a little bit more red meat. You know, fresh meat, lamb, and I ate a lot of lamb where I was at. You know, fresh chicken. You know, and I had no problem with it. But just those type of things, you got to be malleable. You got to be able to adjust to where you at. And if you go with a negative attitude towards people, like for example, if you're Christian and you going to Gambia, I met the Manjako. They got some Christian people there, but it's a Muslim country. You can't go there thinking that you're gonna change the cultural identity of people. It's a very spiritual place. Yes, there is traditional animistic belief, magic. Yeah, that shit is real. You know what I'm saying? Don't let nobody fool you and tell you that it's not. Shit is real. But then you also have charlatans, people that are trying to trick you, people are trying to use you. You know, you got to be cognizant of that as well. And it just comes down to you being able to judge people's, you know, their heart. You know, weigh in their positive and negative traits and getting to know people. Don't take everything at face value. Don't flash your money. Don't be you know, high-lifing it around people. Try to be guarded about, you know, your financial situation. Don't splurge a whole lot. Just be guarded. And you will miss a whole lot of shitstorm by just being moderate. You know, give yourself a chance to know your environment. One of the art of war, Sun Tzu's art of war. Know your environment. establish relationships with people. Uh, establish yourself with local elders who will be able to facilitate things such as, even being able to renew your visa. Have people that, basically adopt you, that bring you in and love and care for you, and have them to do a lot of the intricacies of doing business with people and doing business with the government. You got to have somebody that's basically vouching for you, and that requires you to open yourself to real relationships. And with that, I say peace, because it's getting a little long on the video. But again, I say Gambia, that I love, man. I love Gambia, just like I love Cote d'Ivoire, just like I love Ghana. You got to love the place, the land that you own. I even tell people like this: you can't choose where you born. Big love to Haiti. J'aime Haiti beaucoup. You got to love the ground that you are on. You can't choose where you're born, but you can choose where home is, right? And I even say that about the place of my birth, the United States of America. God bless the United States, and keep her safe and keep her people safe, because there's enough of my blood on that soil for me to respect that soil and love that soil like no other. All right, with that, I say peace. And if with all things, man, you live the day without learning something, man, you wasted a day under the sun that you can never get back. One perfect love to the people. Peace.